A special thank you to each of our subscribers who make this channel possible. Here's today's story. In a dramatic and high-stakes weekend, the Senate has been embroiled in a fierce debate over President Donald Trump's ambitious tax and spending bill, which is facing significant pushback from Democrats and a few dissenting Republicans. As the clock ticks toward Trump's 4th of July deadline for passing the legislation, GOP leaders are scrambling to secure enough votes to push the bill through. The proposed legislation, which promises substantial tax cuts and spending reductions, is now at a critical juncture, with overnight voting postponed until Monday due to ongoing negotiations and resistance within the party. The bill, often referred to as the Big, Beautiful Bill by Trump, has sparked contention among Senate Republicans, some of whom are expressing concerns about the steep cuts to Medicaid and other social programs. In a tense Saturday night session, GOP senators barely managed to clear a procedural hurdle, with a handful of holdouts threatening to derail the process. Phone calls from Trump and a personal visit from Vice President J.D. Vance were instrumental in keeping these dissenters on board. Notably, Republican Senator Thom Tillis of North Carolina announced on Sunday that he would not seek re-election, a decision influenced by Trump's pressure after Tillis voiced his reservations about the bill's Medicaid cuts. A recent analysis from the Congressional Budget Office revealed alarming statistics. If the bill were enacted, 11.8 million more Americans could find themselves uninsured by 2034, and the deficit could swell by nearly $3.3 trillion over the next decade. Despite these warnings, many Senate Republicans, along with conservative members in the House, are advocating for even deeper cuts, particularly in health care. Trump himself cautioned against going too far, reminding lawmakers, "Don't go too crazy. Remember, you still have to get re-elected." The Senate bill proposes around $4 trillion in tax cuts, making permanent the tax rates established in 2017, which are set to expire at the end of the year unless Congress acts. Additionally, it introduces new tax breaks, such as eliminating taxes on tips. However, it also aims to roll back billions in green energy tax credits, which Democrats argue will devastate investments in wind and solar energy across the nation. The bill includes $1.2 trillion in cuts primarily targeting Medicaid and food stamp programs, tightening eligibility and imposing work requirements. Moreover, the legislation allocates $350 billion for border and national security measures, including funding for deportations, with some costs offset by new fees imposed on immigrants. Once the Senate passes the bill, it will need to return to the House, where Speaker Mike Johnson has instructed lawmakers to remain on standby for a potential return to Washington this week. In response to the Republicans' push, Senate Democrats, despite being in the minority, have employed various tactics to delay the process. They forced a full reading of the bill, which took nearly 16 hours, and have filled the chamber with speeches to voice their opposition. Senator Gary Peters of Michigan condemned the bill as reckless and irresponsible, while Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont criticized it as a gift to the billionaire class. Senator Patty Murray, the ranking Democrat on the Appropriations Committee, raised concerns about the accounting methods used by Republicans, arguing that characterizing the tax breaks from Trump's first term as current policy is misleading and would not resonate with everyday Americans trying to manage their finances. Murray challenged her Republican counterparts, saying, "Go back home and try that game with your constituents." As the debate continues, GOP leaders appear undeterred by the Democratic opposition, with Senator Lindsey Graham, the Budget Committee chair, confidently stating, "We're going to pass the Big, Beautiful Bill." However, with their narrow majorities, Republicans can only afford a limited number of dissenters in both the Senate and the House, making every vote crucial. Trump has maintained pressure on lawmakers to finalize the bill, threatening to campaign against those who oppose it, including Tillis, who expressed concern that Medicaid cuts would harm many constituents in his state. In a passionate speech, Tillis articulated his belief that the Senate's approach betrays Trump's promise not to strip away health care from Americans. Using budget reconciliation, Republicans are able to circumvent the typical 60-vote threshold needed to overcome objections in the Senate. This means that Democrats, while unable to filibuster, are still seeking to stall the process through various means, including proposing numerous amendments during a potential vote-a-rama. As the weekend draws to a close, all eyes are on key Republican senators, particularly Lisa Murkowski from Alaska, who has been seen in intense discussions with GOP leaders. As the situation evolves, the outcome remains uncertain, But one thing is clear, the battle over Trump's tax and spending bill is far from over, and both parties are gearing up for what could be a contentious week ahead in the Senate. That's all for this story. We upload videos every day covering many different subjects, so hit that subscribe button to stay informed. Thanks for watching.